A movie that hammers home the idea that regardless of where you live, suburbia, large city, you should probably just keep to yourself. Mind your own business and don't bother your neighbor, be they vampire or just someone who works a regular 9 to 5. Jamie?
Yeah.
Let's go watch Fright Night. Everybody, welcome to another episode of Good Times, Great Movies. We're an 80s movie podcast where every other week we watch a different movie from the 80s and then we talk about it.
That's right.
My name's Doug McCambridge. I'm one of your two hosts. And with me, as always, Jamie Lorello.
Look at
just
that.
hanging out, just eating fruit. You might be a vampire if you eat too many apples.
Just eating my apples, sharpening my several teeth. Like, really, vampires only need, are they your canine teeth right here? These sharp guys, right? To really get what they need to. But that vampire that she becomes at the end has all the teeth, like so many teeth.
She's like an extreme vampire.
Yeah.
And he becomes extreme vampire when he gets a nail through his hand at one point.
Oh, no, it wasn't even a nail. It was a pencil.
Oh, it was a pencil. He flipped his lid when he got a pencil through his hand. I expected him to chuckle and just shrug that thing off.
Right, and pull it out and
he's spinning in circles, yelling. It was a very weird reaction.
Lead poisoning is very dangerous to a vampire. Little did you know. So
it's any wood through any part of their body could potentially be deadly.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah. Yeah. But you're right in that he seems to have different phases of vampirism.
Yes.
Because he can just be like a cool, sexy vampire when he has the lady up there and he's about to bite her neck. But then he turns into full monster at times.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know what causes the monster. I do like the groans when they hold the cross up to him. Oh, man. Oh, Fright Night.
What?
Fright Night.
We're
I just said the name of the movie,
Night.
which they say a lot. They use the titular line, I think, like 3 times, and maybe more, because the name of the show the name
of Roddy McDowell
show, yes,
is Fright Night. Yeah,
yes.
They say I want to say that every character gets to say Fright Night, and I almost want to feel like after the second one they went up to Tom Holland and were like, can we write in that I say Fright Night? Because even at the end, the vampire's like, welcome to Fright Night. I'm like, I know you're just making fun of Roddy McDowell, but I also feel like you wanted to say it. And I'm like, don't welcome me to Fright Night. It's almost over. I know what I'm watching at this point.
I'm on board. It's okay.
So it's Fright Night from 1985, directed by Tom Holland, starring William Ragsdale, Chris Sarandon, Roddy McDowell, and let's say Amanda Bierce. Let's give her the credit that she deserves for bringing this movie too.
Yeah, with that weird hair.
Did you know that when you're a vampire, your hair gets really long and then when you turn back to normal, it's short again?
Yeah. And did you? And then I guess being a vampire also accelerates your puberty. Like, how old are they in this? Would you say?
Well, I mean, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. We do see that they're in high school, but I'm going to say they're seniors. So let's just say 17, 18 years old. Okay.
Because I have to say, in the beginning, in the first scene that they're together making out on the floor, and she's like kind of in a pair of overalls, and she has, and I'm not dodging, listen, I love short and curly hair. It's a great look. Sure. But she wears it. Like, she wears it's short curly hair. And she puts a random ponytail in it in the back at one point. She's got clips off to the side. And I know it's the 80s, but it's just maybe not as flattering of a look. But anyway, in the first scene that they're making out in, she looks like a 13-year-old. Do you not agree? I was like, how young is this kid?
I don't know that I agree, but I don't know how much of... I can't see her without just seeing her as the neighbor from Married with Children. Like,
Yeah.
it's really tough. It's like, I was like, oh, this is a grown woman who owns a house and is on her second marriage. Like,
Right.
It's so weird for me to think of her as a teenager. He doesn't look like a teenager, and they don't help matters. I know I've talked about this on the podcast. Teenagers in the 80s did not walk around in sport coats, right? Like, that's like near the end is when they go to visit with the vampire for the vampire test. I was like, he looks like he just came from a job interview. Like, he's a
Yeah.
working professional.
Yeah.
But that was not fashion, was it? In the 80s? I'm seeing it enough in movies where it makes me think it is, but I can't imagine a 17-year-old being like, I'm going to put on my khakis and sport coat and go to school today.
Maybe a mature 17-year-old.
Yeah, sure.
I don't know. I don't.
Maybe. I mean, these people were clearly in their 20s playing teenagers.
Yeah, yeah. And that was the thing. Like, why don't we just remove? Well, I guess then, I don't know.
I mean, he does he need to live at home? I was going to say he needs to live at home for his mom, who 30 minutes in is like, yoo-hoo, I'm working nights. P.S. I'm out of this movie. Like, okay. All right.
But she's the one that invites the vampire in. I was like, oh, he's all set. His weirdo friend Evil gave him the best advice. You know what I mean? And you just don't have anybody. The owner of the home can't invite the vampire in. Oh my God, it's a good thing I didn't invite that guy with the goggles in. What if he was a vampire?
No, you can't invite people into your house. What do you do?
I didn't. But
If
I'm
this
saying.
movie didn't teach you anything else, I hope it taught you that.
Yeah.
I
Because they
hope
could be
Barrett's not
vampires.
just inviting people in. Like the guy with the goggles is like, oh, Barrett said it could just come in whenever I wanted. And so he just pushes past you and makes himself a Hot Pocket or something.
We keep Hot Pockets on handy just for that.
Just for
that.
strangers.
Yeah.
Right. Hot Pocket? Pumpkin beer? What do you want? Yeah, this movie is billed as a comedy horror.
So, do you think that they added the comedy after editing where they were like, people are not going to take this seriously. We better call it a comedy.
They were like, what is this Evil Ed guy doing? We have to say this is a comedy.
Seriously.
Because his line delivery makes no sense otherwise.
No. Do you think that it's that? They were like, we can't control this guy's performance, so we'll just call it comedy.
It must be, because I don't consider this a comedy.
I didn't find it to be laugh
Hilarious.
out loud funny. No.
No, because I think of something like, Evil Dead 2 when we did that. Like, that's a comedy.
Yeah.
That's goofy and it's jokey and it has scary parts. But this movie's taking itself awful seriously for the most part.
It really does. And
Yeah.
like for all the that
You're laughing. You're smiling. This is a comedy to you, I think.
well, no, because I'm thinking about the what's the guy's name that Charlie? No, am I saying
Charlie's the main kid.
Yeah, Charlie.
Yeah.
He's got so many where he's backing up into a wall and he's like so many exasperated, sweaty looks that's kind of comedy. But he's really frightened by the vampires, even though he learns enough about them on the show. I don't know. That was another weird
thing. He's not learning
thing.
anything, and he's not just being cool. I have to tell you, and this is an invitation to any vampire out there, I guess.
All right.
I would be totally cool if I saw that my neighbor was a vampire, and
wouldn't
the
tattle?
guy came up to me and was like, "Hey, how about you just shut your mouth?" I'd be like, "Fine." I'm not gonna drag the cops to a vampire.
At this point, he's murdering prostitutes, and I'm not saying that prostitutes that they deserve to get murdered. I'm not saying that.
You shouldn't kill them.
But how much of a threat was the vampire to, But, he was doing the right thing. He was trying to save the community, I guess, from this vampire.
I guess.
And really, I know
all right.
you say you'd be cool with it. Would you be cool?
Okay, no, go ahead. Let's test how low my moral compass can be.
Busey's in your attic. Are you cool with that?
I mean, is it Gary Busey or is it the character you play? Because if it's Gary Busey, I think I'm okay with it.
Okay. But that character,
The actor
not so
Gary
much.
Busey, please come live in my attic.
Yeah.
I would be thrilled if
I'll
you
put a
just stopped
sleeping
by
bag
and
up
lived
there.
here.
You can even have pictures of me and my wife and my kids.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Cut my head out of them. Put your head on my body. Please do so, Mr. Busey.
For our listeners, that was a different movie. That's not this movie. It's a different movie that we did.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Gary Busey was a hider in
Yeah.
the house.
In case you watched Fright Night and are thinking, where was Gary Busey? He wasn't in it.
Yeah. No. We're tangential? We're tangential.
Well, that would be that would be if we are tan, but also very gentle. We're tangential. All right. So anyway, we should probably start talking about this movie because I think we talked for 20 minutes before we even got to this point of hitting record for the regular audience.
Yeah.
Oh, regular audience.
Yeah.
Listen, I don't want to call you guys regular, like you're not important or anything. We do. We have a Patreon where you would get all the stuff we cut out at the beginning of the episode, perhaps stuff we cut out in the middle. So uncut episodes early.
Right.
We made some changes over at Patreon. Go over there, see what that's all about.
Take a look.
And let's say that the $15 price point was like, I want to make these two ding-dongs watch a movie, but $15, that's a lot.
It is. In these
In
times,
December... Yeah. Oh, no, go ahead. You're relating to our audience. You're like, you know what? In these times where you're just wearing goggles, asking for money from the future... I don't even know if that makes sense for regular listeners. This is why you have to go to Patreon. But our price tiering has changed, and the $15 is going down to $8 in December.
yeah, it was
But
those.
I will say this, and this is not me trying to, force people to get in early before the price change takes place. I have limited the number of those slots.
Ooh, a limited number.
I mean, since we do our podcast every other week, we only do like 26 episodes, and I don't want everybody choosing all 26 of our
Let's
episodes.
take it easy. DP
us,
takes
yeah.
his chosen episodes very personally.
Listen, we have to do Sly's Giving.
Yeah.
We have to do this
my
whole
favorite
month
holiday.
of horror. I know. It's rapidly becoming my favorite holiday. It really is. But anyway, go over patreon.com/goodtimesgreatmovies and check it out. But now let's get into Fright Night.
Yeah.
So this movie kind of starts, I am going to say it's kind of starts as a comedy because we hear what we soon see as a movie on TV.
Right.
And
Right.
the kissing noises of these people. Just
Well,
where it's like,
this.
I was like, what? What is this supposed to be real? And when you see the movie, I'm like, how are those noises on this movie?
But that's what makes it kind of fun. Like you said, this is the funny beginning.
Yeah.
There's a lot of watching TV from in a TV shots in this movie. This is one of them. Is it them? Though it's the kissing that's coming from the movie that's on the TV, but there's also making out and kissing happening with Charlie and what is her name?
Amy.
Amy, that's right. Charlie and Amy.
I like how they're making out on the floor.
I wondered if that was a thing, like, because then later, or just shortly after, when he's trying to obviously get to, what is it, home base? First, third, home base?
I think he's trying to get to any base whatsoever.
Yeah, and she's just like,
Right.
she's got that tiny ponytail and that short hair. It bothers me so much.
Wait, hold on. Can we back up for just 1 second?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Are you talking about making out on your floor? Is that a thing?
Yeah, is that like, is it a thing? Like, because she later goes into the bed when she's like, okay, I'm ready to make love. Let's go in the bed. Like, is making out their floor thing? And like, they're nervous because being in the bed means it's gonna get more serious.
Yeah. Do you think Amy was scared? Like, if I'm in that bed, I'm totally gonna have
Yeah,
sex with him.
the
so
bed
we have
means
to make out on
sex.
the floor.
Yeah.
Or do you think he's like, unless we are fucking, we're not getting in that bed.
Maybe.
So get on the floor. Like
Maybe.
that's the incentive to be in a more comfortable spot in my room.
You want to be cozy, comfy? Well, then we're getting dirty and delightful.
Yeah, it's a really interesting beginning because they're really making out pretty hot and heavy, and she is not into it. She freaks out and is like, "Get off of me, you creep!" And then is like, oh, okay. All right, sex sounds fine. I guess I can.
Yeah,
do
she
this.
did. Well, then it's funny because then she thinks it back over and she's like, okay, never mind. Because she's forcefully,
Yeah.
no. And you kind of feel bad. You're like, you forget like how, like teenage boys and teenage girls and I don't know that you forget.
I mean, she is very nervous and very uncomfortable with this. And it really is, it's really like, this dude's really trying to pressure her.
Well, yeah, he kind of
sex.
gets a little jerky. He's like, we've been dating for like a year.
Almost
and
a
you've
year,
been saying maybe the whole time. And listen, I didn't date in high school, so I don't know if this was a thing. If you dated for an extended period of time, you're expected to give up the goods. I don't
know. The amount of floor making out I did in high school was
Yeah, that's why I'm like, is that
that's
something that maybe it is something that you do? I don't know.
Maybe
Like,
I should have done that. Maybe I should have thrown some pillows down on my floor, and the women would have just
you would have
made
had
their
more
way to the
action.
room.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know. I had a pretty thick mustache in high school, so I wasn't getting that kind of action, but I'm fine with it.
I mean, we're older and wiser now. We can look back on these two and be like, well, that doesn't seem like it would be fun at all. I'm glad that wasn't happening. It seems like a lot of pressure. But this kid, and this is where I don't relate to him whatsoever, because when I was in high school, when I was in high school, if a girl is sitting on my bed taking her shirt off, I don't care how many coffins my neighbor is moving into their house. I am not that distracted.
Well, he was distracted by the neighbor. First of all, what a nosy boy he is to be looking. He's constantly looking at the next door neighbors to see what's up over there.
I can only imagine that's why the people who lived there moved away.
Exactly. They're like this creepy ass kid.
Yeah.
Just
if you're a
watches
kid
us.
and you have binoculars like on hand
On
near
the
your
ready.
window, you're a creep.
Yeah. You watch the neighbors way too much. Yeah. So she, like you said, she finally is like, she does a couple deep breaths, puts herself up on the mattress top, and says, "All right,
Like she's ready to jump off that high dive.
Let's make the love, as they call it. I'm ready."
Yep.
And he ignores her. He grabs his knockies and he's checking out. It is a little mysterious though when you see your neighbors drag it, and he's like, "You got to see this," and she's like, "I'm finally convinced myself that we can do this." Right. And then I love it. I don't know if I'm going too ahead of myself, but when they go back downstairs and his mom is such a same cues as Evil, I think, for line delivery. She's like, "Hi, what are you guys having, a lover's quarrel?"
His mom is practically like, "So how do all the fucking go upstairs?" It was pretty great, right? Like, she is such a bizarre character. I don't know what she and her son's relationship is. I don't know what the deal is with his dad, but it really seems like hey, my son can do whatever he wants.
Yeah.
You know?
Well,
He
he's
wants
had his girlfriend
to come in,
upstairs,
go upstairs, close the door. Maybe I hear some squeaking of the bed. I'm not going to question anything. P.S. Why can't I find a man? At one point, she's like, "I hope the neighbor's not gay." And I'm like, has this woman like been through every dude in the neighborhood?
Again, maybe that's why the other neighbors moved. They're like, the weirdo kid spies on us, and the little lady's been hitting on us. But yeah, she's
that weirdo kid and his cougar mom hanging around all the time.
She's weirdly kind of into the fact that maybe they are lovers. But then she says, "I'm glad you came over and helped him study." But again, he's obsessed. He's looking out the window some more. Like, "Mom, do you know what's happening next door?" And she's like, "I'm leaving. Can you say goodbye to me?" And he doesn't.
Yeah, they run down the steps screaming about like, "Well, you wanted to get laid," and blah, blah, blah. And like you said, the mom's just sitting right there being like, "Hey, kids, what's going on?" And like you said, when she says to Amy, when she goes, "Thanks for coming to help him study," she almost winks at her. That is how much this mother is involved in what's going on and is totally cool with what's going on.
It's awkward. I'm not appreciative of it.
Yeah. So now let's go to school, because this friend, it's as if some spaz wandered onto set and they're like, "All right, this kid'll do." His first line is, I think Charlie says something about a pop quiz, oh, I can't believe there was a pop quiz today. He didn't even say he was going to give us one. And his friend's line is like, hey, man, that's the point of a pop quiz.
That was actually really good. That's how it's like
every line.
Like a weird, because not really Bobcat Goldthwait, but kind of like that his prosody is weird, and he's got this goofy smile and that weird hackly laugh.
He also, listen,
and he's
I'm
a
not on
little
this
touchy.
podcast.
Doesn't he tickle and touch a little too much?
He's very touchy. He's kind of, I don't want to make fun of anybody's looks, but he's kind of scary looking even before he becomes a vampire.
I agree.
My favorite moment of his is near the end when Roddy McDowell goes over to see if the mom is okay, and he's in bed, and he stands up and he's like, she's working nights now, but guess what? She left a note, and he has to read the note that the mom left about food in the fridge.
Yeah.
And it was like, this is either the worst character or my favorite character.
Right?
I don't
You're
know.
not sure. Again, I felt better about him when he became the vampire. I'm like, oh, okay, this is working. Now
all the choices make sense.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. But when he's just the friend, I'm like, what is wrong with this kid?
Right. Yeah, I kind of wanted...
When Roddy McDowell has to watch him turn into...
Oh my God. I was like, am I supposed to be sad? Am I supposed to be
Because
crying?
he's so upset.
Roddy
He's like,
McDowell crying? It's awesome. I kind of wanted a scene where, first of all, Jerry the vampire. It's so great. Jerry. I like when the guy's like, hey, Jer, people are here. And I'm like, Jer? He can't be that vampire.
He's Jerry
and name
the
your
vampire.
character Jerry. But I kind of wanted Jerry at one point to be like, oh my God, I turned this kid into a vampire? That was a huge mistake.
No, this is what this kid has been waiting for his whole life. This makes sense. And now...
It makes sense for him, but Jerry should turn around and be like, woof, that was a mistake. I don't need this weirdo hanging around me.
Jer.
Or
hey, Prince Humperdinck.
Hey, Jer Bear, some kids are here to see you. All right. So after school, after he kind of talks to his weird friend, and we see that he and Amy, I guess that was a legitimate fight. He goes home to see what we find out is a prostitute? Or are we just meant to understand that that's a prostitute?
Well, she's so sexy in the middle of the day.
Door-to-door prostitute delivery. She shows up and she's like, hey, and I'm so surprised he didn't say something like, I wish that was the address or something like that.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
no,
He's
very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's like, oh, no, that's next door. You see the coffin over there? Yeah, just head into that place. That's cool. And then, that night...
I love it. He's still curious. He asks his mom, he's like, do you know who the neighbors are? And she makes some comment like, oh, I hope they're not gay again. Yep. And he's like, oh, they're definitely not gay. And then,
Right. Yep. But that night is when he hears a scream next door. And I guess he recognizes that that's the scream of the woman who asked him what his address is or something like that. And then sometimes time in this movie, I'm not sure how much time passes. Yeah. Because then he's at like a diner they'd be in Greece to meet his girlfriend there.
Yeah.
And this is when he sees the news report about the woman he saw being murdered. And they find her dead body like under a bridge or something.
Yeah, under a bridge in town. Now remember now they're meeting at this diner again to have some kind of conversation. He starts off again kind of apologizing about the sexy night and how it didn't work out and he was distracted. But then once again he gets distracted.
This kid's got a problem with being distracted by television a whole lot.
Too much.
And vampires.
Too much TV, too many vampires. So when he gets distracted the second time because he gets this news report, she's not happy. I think this is why the scene takes place in a diner, is so that she can mush this food in his face.
Looks disgusting, by the way. I don't know what they're eating. It's gross.
No, she takes it out of some other dude's hands.
Right. Very rude.
And she smushes it in his face. Doesn't Crazy Kid come into this too?
Yeah, before he gets food smashed in his face, Crazy Kid's there so excited because they have found decapitated bodies.
Oh.
This kid is creaming his jeans because they're talking about
Creaming his
decapitations on the news. He again is just like, their heads are gone.
Yeah, that weird delivery. So weird.
You're in a diner yelling about somebody's head being cut off. Kid, relax. Also, you're wearing suspenders for some reason.
I don't trust you.
I don't.
Mm-mm.
And like you said at one point, I thought for some reason that these two were friends. But I guess I only thought that because they have a couple scenes with them talking. But when he meets him and asks him, like, what are the vampire rules? It really does seem like he just went to the weird kid at school who might know something about vampires.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that's
But the whole rest
how,
of the time, they're just like, no, you want to walk back to your house or blah, blah, blah. Like, it seems like they're friends, but not really. I don't know.
I don't know if they're friends for, like, informative reasons. Like, they're friends so that, you know, or, like, he's just that. Because even, doesn't the vampires, or who says it to him? I thought when he becomes a vampire, they're like, you'll never get made fun of again. And, like, he kind of is the weird kid.
I mean...
His name is Evil. He's kind of the oddball in school.
Yeah, that's Jerry that says that, though.
Okay.
Before Jerry turns him into a vampire.
But that's part of it is. So maybe he is that kind of weird guy.
I mean, come on. Jerry met this kid for 5 minutes and he can pick up on this. He's like, oh, that kid's a weirdo. Yeah, because he even says stuff like, nobody will ever pick on you again.
Yeah.
Nobody ever beat you up again. And I wanted Evil to be like, how did you know that about me? And Jerry to be like, come on.
It's kind of obvious, kid. It's kind of obvious.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you were in my house for 5 minutes. I know everything about you. So he's really into the fact that these people were taking coffins. And so he tries to break into the basement, just open the doors and go down.
In the daytime, again, he's in the middle of the day.
Right.
He's kind of staring at the house like, oh, how can I get in? And he tries to go in through the cellar doors that have access to the basement. But the crazy assistant guy is right there watching. Who is this guy, by the way? Who is this guy? I don't know.
Oh,
He's
I don't
just
know.
the vampire's assistant.
Do you mean in real life or like what's his
Both.
name in the movie?
Both.
I don't know. Either one.
Okay.
I don't know. I know Chris Sarandon from this movie. I was really late to this movie. I saw this movie for the first time maybe like 10 years ago.
I saw it for the first time yesterday.
Great. Okay. So Chris Sarandon, the vampire, I just know him from this. He does do the voice of Jack Skellington in those.
He's Prince Humperdinck.
Right, yes. Okay, sorry. Yes, that's where I know him from too.
That's where I knew him from.
Okay, no, that's great. No, for some reason when you said that, I'm like, is that a character in Shrek? I don't know what the hell you're talking about. Yes, no, that's who he is, and I guess that's probably where I saw him first.
Yeah.
But the main kid, William Ragsdale, this shows that I was a little bit too young when this movie came out. I know him as Herman from Herman's Head.
Oh.
That's it. Like he's a working actor. He still is in all sorts of TV.
Right.
But that's how I knew him.
No. Well.
So, that's all.
And did you know Roddy?
Yeah, it's tough. Yeah. I know Roddy Mcdowell more as a punchline than an actor. You know, I know he was in Planet of the Apes and stuff like that, and I know he was in a lot of old movies, and I always kind of get excited about him, but I really know him. There was a Simpsons episode where I think they had like a talking, who's the old actor?
George Burns.
Vincent Price.
Oh, gotcha.
They had like a Vincent Price doll or something like that. And he pulled the string, and the only thing he said is, "There's a party at Roddy Mcdowell's tonight." and I don't know why that sticks with me so much, but that's kind of how I know Roddy McDowell is this like closeted gay man who really never tries to hide the fact that he's gay, but at the time you could not come out. Like that's how I know him.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
I do have to say, I think he's the best part of this movie. I think he's fantastic.
Yeah, he does a great job
in this movie.
Yeah,
he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he's able to act with that weird kid more than anyone else.
Yeah, he does a great job with him. I agree. Yeah, he's every time he was in a scene I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna get good.
Yeah.
Because I'm not gonna lie, I don't want to give too much away about my thoughts, but it dragged on a bit for me. This movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I was like, all right, let's get to the vampire action. Let's quit with this kid being so scared of it and stalking.
It really is a lot of just a kid being scared.
Yeah.
It's almost like I felt when I watched The Sixth Sense for the first time. And I was like, I just watched a kid be scared for like 2 hours. That's a minority opinion, but I don't really like that movie.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I thought it was funny because he does try and get into, like you said, the basement, and these doors aren't even locked. I'm like, isn't that Vampire 101? Like, you lock the doors to your vampire
I know, especially
dungeon?
if that's where you're snoozing, and but you're in. Maybe if you buy a house in a residential neighborhood, maybe you figure it's safety. You know,
right? But like you said, the main vampire, we haven't even met him yet. Like we've
only
assistant
spied on him through the window,
carrying a coffin in. Yeah, but his assistant is a quote unquote regular guy.
We think.
We'll get into that.
Yeah.
Who's there to I guess do stuff for him during the day because he can't get out. So that night, this is when the peeping really starts because he sees a sexy lady.
Oh, this is when the hot peeping, the nude, the boobies.
Yeah.
The nude,
right
the
in front
boobies.
of the window. Just right in front of the open window. Like you said, nude boobies. And that's when the shirtless vampire shows up and totally has vampire teeth. And this kid can see it through his binoculars, you weird perv.
Well, and then there's intense eye contact that happens.
Yes.
So he sees it through the binoculars, but then the vampire sees it too. And then the vampire, hey, how are your fingers, by the way? That's how you know you're becoming a vampire too, if they're really long.
They're half as long as a vampire's fingers.
Well, they grow. So he takes his creepy vampire hand and he shuts the blind.
Yes. I do think it's very cute how he has to take his terrifying vampire hand and pull on the little circle of the blind.
Yeah.
It's very funny. He sees that this kid sees that he's a vampire, and this is going to be a whole heap of trouble for this guy. It's really awesome. And he knows that he's been seen. He has to go run and wake his mom up about this and everything.
And she's no help at all. She's not interested. She's got two. I like it when she tries to comfort him. I think it's this night that she offers him the hot cocoa.
Of course. Yeah.
But there's another night when he's freaking out about the vampires, and she offers him a Valium.
Yeah. Oh, do you need a Valium? You having trouble sleeping? You need a Valium? I'm like, Mom, you're too cool.
It just depends. It just depends on her mood.
Yeah, two things. She's totally fine with this underage sex that's probably happening upstairs. And she's like, listen, that drawer full of Valium, whenever, just take one. You're fine. But this is where he goes outside. He's really freaking out. And this is where he sees the vampire and his helper, carrying garbage bags full of, I guess, prostitutes.
It's a body.
outside.
It's a bunch of bodies. And that's why when
definitely.
he's telling the cop later, which, by the way, I love how quickly he goes and says he's calling the cops, and he returns with a straight-up detective.
Oh, yeah, this is not just a beat cop here. This is a detective. And I love how he's this close to looking in that basement.
Yeah.
And then he starts blurting out and yelling about a vampire.
I know.
The turn of this cop to be like, what? You're wasting my time with this. It's awesome.
Well, we're a little ahead of ourselves. We don't have to call the cops just yet. Well, we're almost there, actually.
Yeah, we're almost there because this is where this is the first instance where we see our vampire eating apples. Why is fresh fruit playing such a huge part in this movie?
Because
and in this vampire's diet.
Keeps the teeth sharp. Lets your teeth get some biting action in before you're biting in the neck. You think it's easy to bite into a person's neck area like those vampires do? No. And do you think it's easy to bite into the apple like that? And not just eats the apple, he eats the core. Because did you see when he throws the one apple at him?
He takes a chunk out of this apple. It's one bite and 3/4 of the apple is gone.
And the core's gone. Like, he's like, I'm a vampire.
You want to make this more of a horror comedy? You have him explain that he has to eat apples to keep his teeth sharp.
Exactly. An apple a day keeps the vampire sharp.
Doctor away?
No, it keeps the
vampire dentist.
Yeah.
He can't go to a dentist because the dentist would be like, what is happening with these teeth? So yeah, he needs to eat as many apples. Later he's eating a banana.
Oh, yeah.
They do show that he's got a fresh bowl of fruit next to the telephone. The amount of detail. And why does he have clocks everywhere? Is he also just like a vintage clock collector that's just a little bit about his personality?
Something is very important about the time, obviously. It's very important. Well, and he does have a lot of... Well, he's a vampire, right? And if I learned anything from... what was that movie with...
Your vampire studies class in college?
Don't he's probably like 500 years old.
Oh, yeah. Who knows? None of that is ever discussed.
No, we don't get into that kind of
Why
vampire
he
life.
decides to set up in a sleepy suburban town makes no sense. You want to make
Why
people
he
disappear? Go to the
decides-
city, dude.
Yeah. Why he decides to just stalk this one boy and ruin this one teenage boy's life. Like, doesn't this vampire have other things to do? Although... So he's got this collection because he's moved into this old house, this vampire, and they're doing some work on renovating the house. And so he's got these portraits that are painted.
Yes.
And
So let's just very quickly, we'll jump.
Yeah.
This is where the cop comes, where he gets the cop. It's the very next day. He tries to convince his girlfriend, and then he gets the cop. And this is where, like you said, he goes in and looks around this house. Sorry, I didn't mean to
and he
interrupt about
tells the cop,
painting,
no, that's good. We needed that. He convinces the cop to come because, and the cop says this upon entry, like, we've gotten a hot tip from Charlie that the murders that took place recently of the women in our town can be linked back to this house, and he's an eyewitness, and so I'm here to investigate it. So yeah, they get into the house, and it's got some character to it, I guess.
The house is gorgeous. Like it doesn't look like his house. I mean, these are two totally different homes.
No.
It's got that great like stained
That
glass
stained
circle
glass,
thing
yeah.
at the top of the stairs. Like for some reason he was able to find a vampire house in the middle of this neighborhood.
Well, that's maybe why he found it, Well, I don't know.
I guess. But as you were saying earlier, he does have a painting of a woman who looks a lot like Amy. So after this debacle with the cops and he realizes that he's not getting anywhere, he decides to go to his twitchy weird friend and ask him what the rules of vampires are. And this kid, again, they're not friends. He has to pay him $8 to get this information. It's not like he was doing anything important. And
No.
it's really weird because he's like, well, why should I tell you anything? And he's like, here's $8. And this kid's so excited about $8.
Who knows what this kid's life's really like? Let's be real. But yeah, he gets excited about the $8, and he gives him some good information, about the crosses
We're meant to believe
and about
that
the
he
garlic.
just watches horror movies religiously.
Oh, the kid that he gets the advice from?
No, the
Yeah.
kid who's making out with his girlfriend. He knows the horror host and
Yeah, and
everything
he
like
watches
that.
this Vampire Slayer show all the time, and he knows nothing.
How does he not know any of this?
I know.
I was watching a movie with Carla. Now, she normally doesn't, watch movies with me on purpose, but every now and then she'll be in the room and then get sucked into it. And we were watching a vampire movie, and at one point I was just like, well, he can't go in because he didn't invite him in. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, well, that's the rules. And then I started talking about garlic, and Carla was like, will garlic powder work? And I'm like, well, I did see a movie. And she was so like upset that I knew all of this information. She's like, you shouldn't know any of this. Vampires aren't real. And I'm like, yeah, I know. But it just seems weird that I would know way more about vampires than this kid. And I don't watch, what's his name? Peter
Price?
Peter Christ?
Price. Wasn't it Price?
I don't think that's right. I think I wrote it down later. Peter Vincent.
That's
Vincent
why I was saying
really
Price.
Yeah. But yeah, so this kid's like, oh, you know what? Garlic will help you. Holy water will help you. And also he can't get in your house unless you invite him.
Yeah. He gives him the basics.
The most, I mean, he gives him $8 worth of information.
Yeah, basically. But you're right. Charlie should have known this shit. But go ahead.
Yes. Mm-hmm. This is, and I know we talked about how, we're not really sure how horror comedy this horror movie is. I love this reveal when he's in his room nailing his window shut. And then his mom's like, hey, come downstairs. There's somebody I wanted you to meet. And he's so thrilled that you have to invite this guy in. He comes downstairs whistling, which I thought was great. And just the reveal of, hey, here's our new neighbor, Jerry. I really did find that very funny.
Yeah, I did too, because Jerry turns his chair around and is like, la-da-dee-da. And he doesn't even pretend. He's just like, why would you invite him here? Why is he here?
And his mom's like, I am trying to get laid here.
Yeah,
why are you being so rude to our guests?
And Jerry is like, well, I'll just come over anytime I want to now.
I'll see you real soon.
Yeah.
His mom is so... I wish this woman was in this movie. Like, she's so funny because she really is like, I invited this stud neighbor over for a drink. Like, it really is like, hey, you want to meet our neighbor and then maybe take a walk for a few hours?
Yeah. Find your girlfriend. It's super cool. Yeah.
But since he's been invited over, he decides to drop by that night. And let's say that this kid's mom is a very heavy sleeper. Is that the best way to describe how she doesn't hear him
because then she does
thrown
wake up
through the
later.
closet?
Yeah. Thrown through the closet, thrown on the floor. Well, he doesn't...
Choking.
Yeah.
Choking him out. He smashes this kid's head into the wall, like, through the drywall.
He's an angry vampire. Because, and he's got sort of a right. He's like, listen, if you would have just let me do my shit, now not only are you spying on me, but you've called the cops on me, buddy. Like, let me do my vampire work. And this kid gets so sweaty and so scared. He's
it's great.
It is. Yeah. But yeah.
But much like I've said in other podcasts, let's say Gary Busey is living in your attic and wants to kill you, but you can pretend that he's the man of your dreams until you can escape.
Yeah.
Or let's say a vampire gives you the option to kind of like look the other way. I don't care if your plan is to stake him later. Just be like, okay, all right, fine. You know what? These lips are sealed, dude.
Yeah.
Your secret is safe with me. I'm not going to tell my mom. You might be interested in my girlfriend. We can talk about that later.
Yeah, I saw a portrait at your house. Looks kind of like her. I don't know. Yeah, no. He,
P.S. Are you cool if I keep spying on the women you bring over? Like, maybe don't bring that up right away, but that's something you can talk about down the road.
Right. Make
I'm
arrangements.
sure his roommate watches, so who knows?
Make arrangements. That's what you do. You make some deals here. Charlie is not interested in making deals. He is, though he's very scared of the vampire, he is out to stop the vampire.
Yeah.
So yeah, the vampire slams him all around his room. Doesn't wake up mom. The vampire, you said how he like comes over at night. He doesn't come over. He sneaks in the house.
Oh yeah. He comes in through like the mom's window or whatever.
And he removes the doorknob on the mom's bedroom door. So when she finally does wake up, she's kind of locked in her room.
He pulls it so hard, the door frame breaks. And later on, she's like, "Oh, my door was stuck. That's weird." So this is where, like we said, he stabs him in the hand with a pencil and turns him into a full-blown monster for a little bit. And he decides to leave because he's like, oh, if I kill this kid, the mom's up. Now I have to kill the mom. It's going to be a whole mess.
Well, and daylight's coming. Isn't that the other thing? Is like,
oh, maybe that's, This vampire doesn't have a good sense of how time works. So maybe he's a relatively new vampire.
That's why all the clocks.
Yeah. And this is where we said the mom's like, hey, you want a Valium? Oh, P.S. I started working the late shift.
Oh, yeah.
I'll be seeing a movie. Goodbye. I also like, this is one of the best parts of this movie, I think, is this vampire not only wants to kill him and is like, seems to be a pretty cool vampire. He's kind of petty. I love how he calls the kid to be like, hey, guess what? I just fucked up your car.
Oh, yeah.
He calls him on the phone and is like, I know you're on the phone. I can see you. Your window's right there. Mine's right here. P.S. you can't drive that car anymore. I beat it up.
Man, what car did he have, though? Did we even ever see him in a car?
Yeah, he had that it was a Mustang, but it looked like it was
right.
being worked on because different panels were different
That's right.
color and
That's
stuff
right.
like that.
That's right.
So anyway, let's talk about the fact that he now decides that he can't go to his friend, he can't go to his girlfriend, his mom, the cops. So he decides to turn toward the obvious person, who is the host of the horror movies that he watches when he's getting hot and heavy with his girlfriend.
Right. He goes right to the studio to see him after. Little does he know, though, this show was recently canceled.
How does he have a job at the end of this? Is that ever explained?
Because I'm sure love of vampires came back after maybe the news reported that there was a vampire in their town.
The news reported this?
I'm assuming they would, right? Because wouldn't it have all come? We needed that. We needed that to find out why he was the show was. But the show. Yeah,
because even if the. Oh no, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, even if the news doesn't know that there was a vampire in that house, because they wouldn't. The news may be like, oh, there was a vampire at this club that beat up a bunch of bouncers or something, and. Yeah, like you said, maybe there's,
word has out on the street that there's vampires around.
Okay.
So
I love it. Okay, cool. Great.
Yeah. But when he does go to meet up with the vampire slayer, is that what he's known as? Right?
Yeah, let's call him that.
He's been fired because ratings were so low. Nobody cares about vampires. And Charlie's like, but I do. I believe in vampires. And he's like, it's not enough to save the show. And
but they were more like you.
He's begging him. This is when this actor, Charlie, does a pretty good job. When he's begging, please, because he's begged his friends. Nobody's going to believe him, and he knows this vampire. That's what he's telling the vampire slayer. It's like, this vampire wants to kill me. And if y'all don't help me, that's exactly what he's going to do. He's murder me in a vampire way. And I love it. He just drives off. He's like, nope, not interested. Yeah. Got to keep going.
He's totally rolling his eyes at this kid being like, hey, kid, vampires aren't real. Also, you're really weird. Because he comes right out and is like, will you please just help me kill my neighbor? That's kind of what he says to him. And like you said, Roddy Mcdowell rolls up his window and drives away from this crazy fan. So now he's getting ready. He has, I'm going to say, 8,000 candles in his room for some reason.
Yeah.
He's carving steaks. He's putting together crosses and everything like that. And his weird friend and his girlfriend are very worried.
They're very concerned. Well, they see him in his room with all these candles, just chopping away at this cross or whatever, making this steak to stab him in the heart, the vampire in the heart. And they're like, buddy, is there anything we can do? He's like, no, this is the only thing. I'm just gonna kill him. He's gonna come for me, and if he gets this far, I'll kill him. My mom invited him in the house. They broke the whatever, and they're like, just okay. Can you give us a night? Give us one night to try to help you figure this out, to see who we can get to help you before you just go, I don't know, murdering your neighbor and stabbing them.
They're trying all sorts of things because at first they're like, you know who you could get to help you? That guy on TV, and he goes, I already tried him, and just. Amy's reaction, holy shit, he went to go see some of the TV about this. It's so funny. Because then she goes, it's almost dark. You don't want to go after him in the dark, do you? So they say, hey, how about we go and we talk to him? We're rational human beings. You're clearly not. So we'll go enlist the help of this guy.
Right.
So they do. What is Roddy McDowell doing? He's doing the briefest bit of cleaning up before they come into his house.
It's an
for some
awkward
reason.
cleanup. It's
like he just moves his shoes out of the way and puts on a robe.
Yeah, and I'm not sure why he just needs them to know. I don't know.
I don't know, but I love how they get him to do this because he's like, oh, yeah, that crazy kid. Yeah, that was scary. I don't want to help you guys at all.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, P.S. I'm going to be in a pretty big movie soon and everything like that.
Yeah.
And she goes, I'll give you $500. And he goes, deal.
Yeah. Takes it.
It's really funny.
And it's like her savings bond. She's like, I have a $500 savings bond. He's like, all right, done.
He doesn't miss a beat. He's
No.
like, all right, what do we have to do?
Yep. And they want him. They're not enlisting his help. They are, but it's not like Charlie wanted him to help him slay the vampire. They are like, listen,
Right.
just tell him that this is what you're doing. We think this neighbor's not a vampire. We know Charlie's gone crazy, so we need you to pretend. Right. And he's like, okay, I'll bring a vial of tap water. I'll say it's holy water.
Right.
That'll convince Charlie that it isn't what it is. But Charlie is like crazy. He's like...
Charlie's crazy because they really appeal to him. They're like, listen, the three of us, you see this weird kid over here? It might not seem like it, but he lives in the real world like us. Yeah. We know there aren't vampires. He believes. But what's great about this is they call the vampire on the phone. This is where we see a bowl of fruit. Yeah. And he's eating a banana. And they're like, hey, can we just like come over and like give you some vampire tests? And he's like, well, you can't bring any crosses because I'm a born again Christian. And I just don't think that would be right.
And he says no to the holy water too.
He says no to the holy water. And then finally Roddy McDowell's like, Jesus Christ, dude, it's tap water. Yeah. We're just pretending here.
We just need you to play along. Yeah, that is kind of weird. Like if they really don't believe Charlie at all because they're not even like, well, maybe this is. They just think Charlie's gone bananas.
And that's why I like this. I don't want to say I completely disagree with you, but I like this movie because everybody is like, no, vampires aren't real. It's not even like in Lost Boys because that almost appears to be a world where vampires exist, and everybody's kind of not okay with it, but it's not a shock to most people in that movie. In this, they're like, you're a mental case. First of all, for some reason, he thinks this guy's a real vampire hunter and not just a guy who was in movies. Like, that's the really weird thing.
That's the first sign that you're a little bit kooky.
Yeah, right, exactly.
That and evil is one of your friends. But yeah.
Those are red flags.
They've got to set up to kind of calm Charlie down. They've convinced the vampire slayer that he's going to go over there and identify or disidentify the vampire.
Just give him a vampire test.
They've even given the vampire the heads up, as you said, given him a call and said, here's what we're going to do. And he's like, yeah, great, get this kid off my back. Yeah. Now they all go. They all go to his house.
It's a fun scene because they all go. The roommate is there. The vampire's there. He invites them in. This is where we do get the great line where he's like, hey, Jer, you got some friends here. I just love that he calls a head vampire Jer. And this is where they do the test because Charlie's really worried because he's like, when he drinks that holy water and freaks out, like, he's going to want to kill us. So where's your bag of stuff? And I really like how Roddy McDowell's like, don't worry. I know what I'm doing. I'll protect you. It's fine. And even halfway through this, before he drinks the holy water, like at one point, Roddy McDowell's like, Charlie, you don't have to be rude about this. Like,
because he's
agreed to help us.
He's such a he's like, oh, we're going over the vampire's house. Oh, we're going to see this guy. Oh, of course it's not real holy water then. Yeah. And
I love the fact that they're all kind of laughing at Charlie.
Yeah.
Like his girlfriend, his weirdo friend, this vampire hunter, the vampire,
the vampire's
friend, live-in boyfriend. Yes, they're all like laughing at him. And I felt kind of bad for him at this point. So he drinks the not real holy water. Nothing happens, of course. And Charlie's not convinced. But the vampire, this is where he looks at Charlie and he's like, hey, listen, we don't want to, I forget how he says it, but it's kind of like
you've already put your friends out. You don't want to put them out. And
we don't want to put them through anything else, do we? And it really is like Charlie realizes, okay, I'm the only one that knows this, and I don't want to get my friends and girlfriend murdered. So, okay, that's fine. Let's go.
Right.
But on the way out, the vampire hunter, this vain vampire hunter, has to check his face.
He's got to look in the mirror real quick. Yeah. Check his little
they
compact.
Put a lot of flour in my hair, but did they put enough flour in my hair to make me look old? So he has to check his reflection, but he notices that he cannot see Jerry's reflection.
Jerry's gone. They're all chatting, and you could see them all, but not Jerry. And you could see all of a sudden the vampire slayer has seen something. He becomes uncomfortable, a little sweaty, a little rushed. Just like, let's just leave. His mirror breaks on the floor. And everyone's like, well, when they get to the car, Charlie's like, what did you see? Why are you acting funny? What's going on? And he does kind of say, well, okay, there was no reflection, but I think it's fine. I need to go. I've got my $500 and I need to go.
It really is like, hey, that dude's a total vampire.
Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah.
It's really funny because, he drives off and then, he's basically says to his friend and girlfriend, see, that dude's a total vampire. Mm-hmm. And his friend's all freaked out now. And his friend's like, I got to go home. And he says, let's walk Amy home.
Where does Amy live?
Through a city?
Like
through the slums?
All the way. Like how far does Amy live?
They live in suburbia, and we are suddenly in, I'm not going to say New York. It's not that big.
No, but we're definitely in more of a...
We're in Detroit for some reason.
Yeah, we're in this weird city vibe. Even the evil is like, let's walk through this alleyway. Vampire or not, I'm not walking through that alleyway.
No. And also, he mentions it as though he's familiar with it, where later he runs into a dead end, and I'm like, what?
Don't you know your way around here? Yeah.
You don't know. What are you doing? Why would you say, let's go this way, as though it's a shortcut where you don't know where it goes?
And you don't, right.
It's so silly, but they do get separated. Mm-hmm. The spazzy friend runs, and this is where we see that he is then stalked. And eventually, we mentioned it earlier, Jerry's really like, let me turn you into a vampire, dude. It's pretty cool. You won't be picked on. You kind of already look like a vampire.
Yeah, you're already kind of set up. Yeah.
Right. And he does. He turns his friend into a vampire, and now it's just the two of them.
Mm-hmm. And they see this vampire coming for them in the street, Jerry. Jerry the vampire. Right?
Jerry the
vampire.
vampire.
Just the best. I wonder if it's with a G, Jerry with a G, or with a J. Does it say in the credits?
I don't know. I want someone out there to make a new poster for this, but it's just Jerry Seinfeld with vampire teeth.
You could do that, my friend. You have the talent to do that.
Yeah, sure. I'll do that.
No, all right.
All right. I got time.
Yeah, it's fall break.
I told you I'm on fall break.
It's fall break. Let's do it.
I have all day tomorrow.
Oh, I have the creepy hand when the...
They decide, since they're in the city now for some reason, there's a club. Like there's something going on.
Yeah, there's some kind of... Well, I love it. To hide from the vampire, they're in the city, like you said, and there is a club, but the way they access the club is through the chef's kitchen that has like an open window out into the street.
Yeah, and the chef's like, you can't be in here. Whatever. Who cares?
And they just run through, and then they're in this like adult dance club, like a nightclub or whatever.
Yeah, they fit right in. In reality, they're probably way too young to be in here, but they look older than some of the people at this club. They do.
They go right to the payphone, though. They're not here for a good time. They're here to call the cops, which no avail. They're here to, who else do they? Oh, he tries to call the, go ahead.
Charlie's not here for a good time. Turns out Amy, kind of here for a good time. She finds the right guy.
Once she gets a vampire stare down.
Oh, listen, you give me a 1985 Chris Sarandon, okay. I'm totally down.
You're down.
Like,
you're into
when they're doing sexy dancing, I was like, this is really good. Like, I totally understand what's going on right now. And even when he's upset, I was like, maybe he could just, like, can he hypnotize Charlie? And,
I think it only works on the ladies. I think that's the thing. It only works on the ladies. Because,
okay.
They make eye contact. He stares her down, and she's hypnotized. She's his.
Oh yeah.
I thought this dirty dancing that they busted into was weird and uncomfortable.
It sure is weird
because she's so much younger, and they're not dancing like that in the club. Everybody else isn't, and they just kind of take over the dance floor with this weird, dirty dancing. Essentially, he's like rubbing up on her crotch, and she's all
he's like lifting her dress up, pushing her down on her knees. There's a lot happening here, and I love the fact that there must be a full-length mirror at the other end because she's like twirling, and then she looks at the mirror and she's dancing with nobody,
Oh, right.
but then it cuts back to the two of them dancing. It's kind of some fun camera stuff in here. But of course, Charlie sees this and is not okay with it.
No.
Yeah.
And he knows it's got to end. But now,
Right.
this is when the bouncers get involved.
Oh my God, the bouncers! This bouncer, and why does he get involved? I didn't really know it was. Maybe he's like, I think that guy's dancing with the 13-year-old.
Well, I think there was that. I think it was just time to kind of break up the whole bit, and they're like, "No, you're creepy as all hell, Jerry. So you too have to go." And Jerry is not having that.
It's awesome. This one bouncer who walks up to him, and then he looks down at like a giant vampire hand, and then he just yells, "Leon!" up to the other one. I wanted there to be a deleted line where he goes, "Leon, we finally got a vampire." He seems so knowledgeable as to what he's looking at right now. But yeah, then Chris Sarandon, the guy who should be playing everything cool, which is why, again, I think he might be a relatively new vampire. He doesn't know how this works yet.
Right.
He starts, like, murdering bouncers at this club, and the place goes into a panic.
Oh, people screaming and like there's a fire. I mean, it is deadly. There is some angry action happening. But yeah, people come piling out of this club screaming.
Yeah.
It's just a nightmare. And for a moment, I think Charlie does have Amy, but then they lose touch.
He's on a different floor by the end of this. He's like looking down from a balcony, and like Jerry kind of winks at him and is like, "Hey dude, sorry."
Yeah.
And then escapes with her. And then I guess Charlie runs out just in time to see them all driving away in a Jeep.
Yeah.
Because his weird friend is in the back now. Total full vampire at this point, laughing.
Yeah. With that weird cackle that he had even when he wasn't a vampire.
So now basically it's just Charlie and Peter Vincent. Because he goes back to him and is like, "Oh, hey, since you were there last, my friend has been turned into a vampire. You know that really weird guy? And my girlfriend, they kidnapped her. So I just need some help going in there." And he does not want to come along.
He's very reluctant.
Can we talk about the fact that for some reason Jerry dresses Amy up like Marilyn Monroe?
And lays her on like a furry blanket in front of the fireplace.
It really is like a fire-going bearskin rug. He's like, you know what? We're going to get down. This is what I do. Because he walks over, his shirt's already open. It doesn't take that long to slip it off.
Yeah.
And she is more than willing, too. She's like, "Oh, this Marilyn Monroe dress. Oh, there's just a little pull tab back here, and all I have to do is whoop, and the whole thing kind of falls off." Maybe she doesn't remember any of this afterwards, but I don't know. She's basically about to have sex with a vampire, and I think she might
afterwards,
be in the future. Like I do think the one thing I will say, because we have seen the movie, we know that she's fine in the end. It's not like she's dead. Your first time with a vampire, it's pretty good. Like that is a story to tell. Like she could very well get married to Charlie, have kids.
She has
but
that.
At least she's got that. She's like, "I did have sex with a vampire
Before your father."
And then actually was a vampire
Jerry
for a
the
little
vampire. Yeah.
Right. She sits her kids down when they get to the age, and she's like, "Listen, time to tell you about the birds and the bees and the vampires."
For a little while, my hair was long and crazy, and my breasts grew 3 times larger. Because she does when there's that one scene when she walks in toward Charlie, and like, that's a body double. That's not the same body she had before.
Yeah, that's why I was like, this kind of looks like her, but not really. And also, I was like, well, I'm sure she had some sort of no nudity clause, but that dress is totally see-through. And then I was like, did they just like...
That's what it looks like. They're a little too big and a little too perky. They don't look like the boobs that she had that Charlie was trying to cop a feel on at the beginning.
Right, exactly.
But yeah.
This is Marcy Darcy, not Marilyn Monroe.
Exactly. Marcy Darcy, that's right. The vampire also, I mean, she gets bitten. Amy does get bitten, but and I'm not being too picky, it's not really on her back. It's not really on her neck. It's like on her back.
It's really a shoulder bite.
Yeah,
like it is, it's a total shoulder bite. I do love it because of the blood drips that do drip down her back, and the camera does follow it down. But yeah, it's not very neck bitey. It's like he's working his way up to the neck.
Right. This was, and maybe that's made it so that she wasn't full vampire. They could still save her.
Yeah. He's just taking chunks out. He's, again, new vampire. There's a lot of misses before you finally get that hit.
Right. Exactly. Pretty new.
He's still trying to figure it out. He still thinks apples are good for him. He's like, so I heard the vampire that turned me said, we drink human blood and we have to eat a lot of apples. Meanwhile, this vampire's laughing. He's like, I can't believe this guy believed this.
He's buying it, yeah.
So surprise, surprise, when Charlie shows up, Roddy Mcdowell shows up as well.
He's there
got
too.
All his vampire shit.
I love it because he, like you said, when Charlie asked him earlier to come, he kind of refused him and gave him kind of the hard no, and was basically said, "I'm too scared. That's my problem. Is I'm scared and I really don't know what to do. And you'll have to forgive me. I'm sorry, Charlie, but." So he gets brave enough to join Charlie, but I love it the whole time. He's like, I am the vampire slayer. I am the vampire slayer. Like, he's convincing himself that he will be brave enough to do this with Charlie. And so they go in to the house armed with crosses. Roddy's got this cool briefcase thingy that he carries that kind of has his little arsenal of how to defeat the vampires that he brings with him.
It's pretty awesome. But it's diffused very quickly because the vampire kind of just comes around the corner at the top of the steps, and this is when he goes, "Welcome to Fright Night," and basically punches Charlie. Basically punches Charlie, falls over the railing of these stairs, and then Roddy McDowell's like, I'm totally out of here.
Forget it. Bye.
This was a huge mistake.
I'm really scared. Yeah.
And this is where I have to assume that there are some scenes deleted in this movie because Roddy McDowell doesn't run away. He runs over to Charlie's house and starts running through the house yelling for his mother. And I'm like, you've never met his mother. You don't know what her name is. You guys were never in a scene together, but he really is running around like, I need to save this woman. And I'm like, there had to have been some scene that was deleted with the two of these two meeting each other, which... For as much as I love the mom, I would have loved to have seen that.
Just seen them, yeah, I agree. I agree. But when he goes over, the mom is not to be found. She's not in the house. And when he goes into her bed, where he thinks she's restfully sleeping with her Raggedy Ann wig.
Why is he wearing this?
I don't know.
It's yarn.
Yeah.
He piled red yarn on top of his head. And I was even like, that woman didn't even have red hair.
No, it's not even a little bit convincing. But it's not Charlie's mom. It is evil turned into the weird best friend who's been turned into a vampire who now looks even crazier.
Yeah, if you can imagine these crazier, like this kid's chewing every inch of scenery and taking full advantage of just being in a movie. Like I feel like sometimes there are actors or actresses that are like, this might be the only thing I ever do. And so I am going to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I said, he screams and yells. He reads he literally has the note. He reads the note that she's not here, but there's food in the fridge. And then he turns into a wolf, ?
Yeah, he does. He turns into
We
a
don't
wolf.
see a transformation. We just see a wolf run down the hallway.
And chase,
After Roddy McDowell, who stabs the wolf with a piece of a chair. Yeah, something like that. And then this wolf flies over a railing and hits a chandelier, and then we watch a wolf puppet crawl away.
Oh, that sad little wolf puppet. So sad.
And then, like you said, we have to watch this wolf change back into this kid and feel bad for him and cry along with Roddy McDowell. It's a very weird scene.
It is a very weird scene. Yeah, Roddy watches this transformation happen between the wolf becoming the vampire, becoming a monster, becoming a boy. There's ooze. There's a lot of hand shifting. I mean, it is kind of an interesting. It's kind of cool.
Yeah,
but Roddy's reaction is he's
tearful,
terrified and teary and what? It's pretty good. Pretty good.
We forgot to mention earlier, and the reason why this is so upsetting to him is earlier he went to his apartment and this vampire kid was there, and he burned a cross.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
I totally forgot about that too. But that's a funny scene. Like, it really is just the two of them and this kid hamming it up, and Roddy McDowell being like, I'm a Shakespearean actor, and I'm going to do what I can to make it through this scene.
I'm just going to make all these faces, all these dramatic faces. Yeah, we forgot to say that. He tricked him. So when Charlie went to go get Roddy and was refused, Roddy was like, are you sure you're not a vampire too? He was all suspicious.
Right, yes.
Because, yeah.
So now this is kind of fun because Jerry tosses Charlie into the room with Amy, and I love how he throws him a steak like, oh, hey, you might need this, because she's totes a vampire, dude. And why I like this is, in so many vampire movies, the vampire is like made out to be this, like, you know, tortured soul, and he's just looking for his true love. And I kind of like the fact that this vampire is like, yeah, I mean, you kind of look like that girl in the portrait, but whatever. Like, if this kid's gonna kill you, no biggie. Like, I really thought that was gonna be like, I'm looking for my one true love.
Yeah, and this is going to keep me right.
But no, it's like, you were pretty good lying. I turned you into a vampire so that I could torture your boyfriend with possibly having him have to murder you. I really did appreciate that they didn't just lean into the normal vampire story. And again, this is something I think I'm more familiar with than you. So, you know.
The vampire stories.
The normal vampire stories. So now Roddy McDowell is filled with all sorts of confidence.
Oh, yeah.
And he decides to go into this dry ice-covered house. The amount of fog pouring
coming out of this house. It's insane. It's a foggy night when the vampire's really starting to get his thing going.
Yep. So he goes upstairs and breaks in, and he explains something that Charlie didn't know and something that Charlie's friend didn't tell him, because why would he?
Right.
That Amy will be totally fine,
just
as long as they kill Jerry before dawn.
Yeah. So that's the timeline. That's why we got to make sure we got clocks that tell us the time. Yeah.
Right. Yes. So now at least the numbers are a little bit even. There's two good guys and there's two bad guys, and Amy's kind of out of commission right now.
Yeah.
So we see the helper, and this is where I'm going to get very confused about what's happening in this movie. And listeners, if you know anything about Fright Night and you can clue me in on this, please do. Because Roddy McDowell totally ices this dude, like shoots him directly
right in the
face.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
And the guy falls down the stairs. And even the vampire, Jerry, walks around the corner, and they're like, hey, we killed him. And Jerry goes, did you really? And then wanders off.
Yeah.
And then we see this guy walk up the steps. He unloads the gun on him, and it doesn't look like it's pleasant.
No.
But it's not killing him.
Doesn't kill him.
And then Charlie drives a stake through his heart like you would kill a vampire.
And that didn't kill him.
But it kind of did, because now he, like, melts into goo.
Oh, yeah. What is this transformation that happens here?
Don't know.
I don't know.
I don't know what he is.
A goblin of some kind, or like a...
You know what? Let's go.
Well, you have more vampire background. Who helps the vampire?
Well, normally they have someone that is... Oh, God. Normally they have someone that's referred to as a familiar. And a familiar is a human who helps them do stuff during the day. Like, goes out and...
But this is not a familiar. This is a...
It's not a human, that's for sure.
Oh, no.
I don't know. I do like how he falls apart. He kind of, like, turns into bones and dust, and his skull, like, slides across the floor, and the teeth are still chattering.
Yeah. Classy.
So now, I do... Here's the one thing, and I will spoil my thoughts. I like this movie a lot. The ending keeps going. This movie ends about 3 or 4 different times, and I think that's the thing that I'm really, really frustrated by. Because after this, they have to go check on Amy again. Like, I don't understand. They keep running back in that room being like, is she still a vampire?
And
yeah,
she's getting worse.
Okay, let's go.
She's getting worse. She's growling now. The teeth are getting bigger. They're still not as big as they eventually get. Like, she is all mouth. Like, crazy animated mouth.
It is. She looks amazing. Like, that is... The makeup in this, I think, is really good. Because when he's full monster and we just watched a man melt... that's all good. We saw a werewolf kind of thing. I don't know what that was. But her mouth that is basically her entire face is really cool.
You're like, whoa, where does this come from? Yeah. Because we see that they turn into monsters and their vampire teeth become more than just vampire teeth. But hers is, pretty extreme.
So there's a lot of running around, and Jerry's on the roof, but then he's not on the roof, and then he crashes through the stained glass thing, and now he's a vampire, and he's going to kill them, but he's a stupid vampire because he just crashed through a window. Like, they even show him at the beginning, like, his buddy's painting all the windows black so light doesn't get in, and he crashed through the window. We see the sun rising behind him, but he seems unaware of any of this.
He's so focused on getting that teenager out of his life.
Yeah. And he needs to die now, but he doesn't. Because now he turns into a bat. He flies around as a bat for a while.
Oh, right. He attacks them as a bat?
Yes.
Yeah.
And the bat looks really goofy. Like, the bat looks worse than that puppet dog.
Than the dog. Yeah, than the animatronic dog. Yeah.
Yeah. This happens. Then he flies into the basement, and they're like, oh, now we have to go to the basement.
Because he's going to go in his coffin.
Like I said, this movie should have ended by this point.
Yeah.
But now in the basement, this is kind of fun because Roddy McDowell goes over to the guy's coffin. He's like, all right, I'll just drive a stake through this dude's heart. You, I don't know, hang out somewhere, kid?
Yeah.
And this is where Amy walks down and she's being all like sexy and monstery, like we said, with big plastic boobs and stuff.
Right.
And this is where she does turn into a mouth with eyes.
Yeah.
And Roddy McDowell's driving a stake through this guy, but that doesn't work. It's like he missed or something. Eventually, let's just get to the eventually. They basically break all the windows in the basement and the light pours in and kills him, and Amy totally turns back to a normal, not vampire girl with short hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's exhausting to get to this point.
It can be. It can be. Well, yeah, because there's all those transformations that happen. That can be, it's, I thought they were pretty cool, actually, even though they were a little dramatic. There are all these monster to vampire transformations. Amy doesn't have a real severe one, though. Because I guess she's just becoming back into human. She's not transferred. But...
Yeah, I don't even think her fingers get long.
No, she doesn't even get that far. The long fingers, long creepy vampire fingers. But yeah.
Well, wait. Let's just say, okay, very next day, or I don't know, sometime in the future.
Oh yeah.
They're hanging out again in his room.
Oh right.
He looks across the way as creepers do, and for a second he sees flashing red eyes.
Yeah.
But he's like, maybe that was in my imagination. And then for some reason, we end this with the line of his insane friend saying how cool he is.
Oh, yeah. Well, because because now the insane friend has become the master vampire. I don't know how that happened.
You think?
That's
He's
what I
not
think.
dead?
No.
All right. His mom didn't discover this naked boy on her floor.
No, I don't.
When she got home after a long night.
After her
at
night
work.
shift.
She's like, oh, the chandelier appears to be broken. Oh, and there's my son's creepy friend, naked and dead. And that is how Fright Night ends.
Fright Night. Now, there is a second one that was out in the 80s, too, in 88.
It's terrible. It's not
It's
good.
not good.
It has nothing to do with this.
No vampires? There's got to be vampires.
There's vampires, but it's not like William Ragsdale's in it for a little bit, but it doesn't. It feels very, very different. I don't like it. I know some people do like it because it's very different than this, but I don't.
Okay.
I enjoyed this movie. I will spoil my thoughts now. I do think this is a really fun vampire movie. Like I said, I think my biggest issue isn't how long it takes to get to the end, but how long the end takes. But yeah, I like it. It's fun. That's all I have to say.
I like it okay. I was a little disappointed because a lot of times these horror movies come around and they really, we've said this several times before, I claim to not be a horror movie fan, and then we end up watching something and I'm like, oh, their eyes turned me around. I think it was more of the dragginess, some of the inappropriateness with the older vampire man kissing on what was supposed to be a teenage girl. I think made me really uncomfortable.
Really bothered by that. Okay.
It really did make me uncomfortable. And yeah, just some of the, like I said, there's that middle where he's just running around scared Charlie's just so scared of the vampire. And I was like, all right, let's just get to, where's the vampire parts? Let's just get to how we get. And then, like you said, it takes a while for the ending to come when we essentially know what the ending's going to be. But I didn't hate it. I didn't this was terrible.
Right.
It just wasn't my favorite of our season.
Okay. No, that's fair. Come on. We're never going to beat Sleepaway Camp, even though we did that over the summer.
Yeah.
We're not going to beat Slumber Party Massacre 2, I think.
No, well, yeah, you
We're
love
never
that
gonna
Slumber
beat that.
Party Massacre.
I want
to
to
fight.
I want to eat a hand sandwich. There's so much that I want to do that's in that movie. And, I mean, we can get into recommendations. I feel like after I recommended Poltergeist 3, after we watched Poltergeist, I felt like that was kind of a cop-out. So I'm not going to do a cop-out this time. But before I give my real recommendation, I will say they remade this in 2011.
Oh.
And the vampire is Colin Farrell. It's really good.
It's good.
It's pretty much the same movie, just updated. But it's really good. And for some reason, nobody saw it.
Oh.
Like, this original one did really well. It was made for, like, less than 10 million and made, like, 30.
Okay.
The new one, no one watched this movie. And it's really, really good. So people should watch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's not your recommendation. That's just your, did
right.
you know? Okay.
The more you know.
Yeah.
My real recommendation is a horror movie from 1995 called Evil Ed.
Evil Ed?
Yes.
Okay.
It's a movie about a film editor who's assigned, like, he's an editor of, like, highbrow, sophisticated foreign films. And for some reason, because the trashy horror film editor, I guess, quit or died or something, he gets assigned to cut together this movie. And he gets assigned to cut it together on vacation. Like, they're like, oh, you know what? You're going on vacation to this creepy cabin in the woods. Why don't you do some work when you're there? So they give him all his equipment. He has to take it on his vacation and edit while he's there. And apparently the film is so disturbing that he starts to have nightmares. And in his nightmares, he's killing people. But then
dangerous.
Maybe he really is killing people, or maybe it's in his head. It's goofy. It's cheesy. The gore's like over the top, like Evil Dead 2 kind of gore. And it's as silly as Evil Dead 2, but at parts it's genuinely creepy, and it's kind of a low budget, dumb film. So people should
Evil
see it.
Ed? Evil Ed.
Evil Ed.
Okay.
Like the kid in this movie.
Gotcha. Evil, but okay. I like it. It.
What about you? What do you got?
I don't know if you consider it a horror, but it's scary for kids, maybe.
Sure.
I think I don't know when it came out. It had to be pretty recent. So this time of year, my husband and I like to watch kind of these different Halloween-y type movies, right? You know, you put it on, whatever. Normally, as we know just from our podcast stuff, I veer toward more of the kid-friendly genre. Okay. So this is a cute movie. Maybe you want to watch it with the girls. It's called The House with Clocks in Its Walls. It's with Jack Black and Kate Blanchett. Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it, and we had to read the book in fourth grade.
Yeah, it's based off a book. Yeah, it's based off a book series, I guess.
Okay.
And yeah, Jack Black plays this warlock, like a man witch that lives in this house, and his nephew.
Wait a minute. Please tell me that he is a mailman.
No, did I say mailman?
You said a mailman witch, which I thought was funny because I was like, oh, he's a mailman and a witch? That
would be awesome if he was. No, he's just a male witch.
Okay, all right.
Or a mailman witch. Oh, yeah, I guess that did come out that way. Okay.
He's either that or a sloppy Joe.
I don't know why I thought that was so funny. With the man witch thing.
Oh, man.
Kate Blanchett is in it, though. She's great. And Kyle MacLachlan is in it.
Whoa.
As well. Yeah, I thought you would appreciate that. Jack Black's character lives in this house that is haunted by Kyle MacLachlan's character, who is an evil warlock, man witch. And the Jack Black's nephew comes to live with him. His parents just died, and it's more of a kid-friendly fantasy based off a book movie, but it was fun, and there was a lot of clocks, hence the title of the movie, in his house, which reminded me of the house in this movie.
Oh. Now, I remember, I could not tell you a single thing about that book, but I just remember, I loved it. We had to read it as a class in 4th grade, and I absolutely loved that book.
Well, then you should check it out.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you anything about it, so...
Do you like Jack Black?
I might
Some
check it out.
people get offended, you don't like certain actors or whatever. If you're a Jack Black fan...
He doesn't bother me the way he bothers some people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's got a real, Chris Farley. I don't want to say Chris Farley is the same way, but I think some people are just bothered by... They're bothered by these comedic actors, these big, broad, Jim Carrey. I know some people just cannot watch anything that Jim Carrey's in, and I feel like it's that way with some of these comedic actors. But no, he doesn't bother me.
Well, then I think you would like it. And it's definitely something I think you could watch with the girls. So there's that. Yeah.
I might do it. I might check it out.
I'm
awesome.
putting it out there.
All right. Well, thank you everybody for listening.
Yeah. Thanks for
so much fun.
Fright Night.
I hope you enjoyed Fright Night. I hope you enjoy what we're doing this October, because guess what? We're not done.
No, we're
not done. Mm-mm. It feels like we're done. We talked about Poltergeist.
Yeah.
We talked about Fright Night. We talked about Monkey Shines for patrons.
We did.
I will say, if there's any reason to join Patreon, I think it is for our horror episodes. Monkey Shines, man.
Oh, that monkey making out.
Just a monkey and a man sensually kissing is something that I never thought I'd see.
Mm-mm.
Or a man throw a puppet around using just his mouth.
Maul him with his mouth, yeah. Just
better
weird.
than the dog puppet in this movie, I think.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. But anyway, we have those, but we have one more coming up.
Oh, yeah.
So, in 2 weeks, we'll be talking about a movie that is, and Jamie, I'm not trying to sway your decision here, because you do not need to like this movie, and I have a feeling you won't. A movie that's very special to me for the dumbest of reasons. We're going to be talking about Ghoulies.
Ghoulies!
Mm-hmm.
All right.
We're going to get away from vampires, and we're going to go to little monsters.
Ghoulie monsters.
There's a lot happening in this movie. There's some really strange stuff in here. But I'm sure we've all seen the movie poster. There's a green monster popping out of the toilet. We've all seen it, even if you haven't seen the movie. So we're going to be talking about it. The first of, I think they made 4 Ghoulies movies. So this is the only one we're ever going to watch.
Ghoulies
I promise you. Ghoulies 1. So everybody, thank you so much for listening. Find us on all the things, all the Twitters and the Facebooks and all the stuff that we never ever mention, but find us there, follow us. And we will talk to you again in 2 weeks, everybody. Until then, have a great 2 weeks.
Good night.
Like your regular Roddy Mcdowell.
People say I'm crazy and I make no sense. But they don't understand the man's got influence. He's a gigolo, a liar, a man of many faces. So don't be fooled by what you think you see. He's gonna make his move on you and me. Fright night, girls, it's gonna be tonight. Lock your doors and windows tight, so you'll all believe I'm right. We're all in for a most frightening night. Intuition tells me that it's time to blow, but my sense of danger tells me no.
Apparently, she's working nights. But She left a note.